evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our second installment of our MREA Club Connect MREA, the Million Dollar Real Estate Agent classes that we are having directly from KWU in the US. So before we start today, as we are waiting for most of our members to come on board, how many of you are excited for today's session? What are some of your expectation in today's session? Can you just quickly put in the chat box, what are some of your expectation in today's session? What are some of the things that you expect to take away from today's session? Please put in the chat box here, please. While we are kind of waiting for most people to sign in into their Zoom call. Anyone, what is some of your expectation? What are some of the things that you want to take away from this session this evening? And we have two amazing speakers moving into the economic model. Awesome. What else? Thank you, William. Anyone else? Two great speakers. I spent about 15 minutes having that conversation with them earlier. A US referral. Ken, thank you very much. Right, they were really awesome and fun people. We are very honored and very proud to have two amazing master faculty trainers from KW University. One from North Carolina and one from South Carolina. If I'm not mistaken, is that right? Right, so Ken is from North Carolina and Joseph is from South Carolina. And they are both going to come together and give us an awesome presentation on the economic model. Now, I had so much fun talking to them that few minutes earlier before we start this session. I'm hoping and I know that they will definitely bring you a lot of impact in this session and you're going to have some fun together as well. So without further delay, Ken and Joseph, take us away. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good evening, Malaysia. It's weird for me to say that because it's actually 9 o'clock in the morning here, and I know it's 9 o'clock at night where you guys are. Thank you for staying up late. Thank you for turning off the Olympics for 45 minutes and spending some time with us. You know, Jonathan, I was so excited to do this today, and I'm even more excited now because as soon as this is over, I get to call our president, Mark King, and tell him that he was the opening act and I was the headliner today. So it's a great day for me. As John said, my name is Kent Temple. I'm an operating partner of two market centers in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I have a team, and I built my team off the millionaire real estate agent models. I actually built a team without those models and failed. And I started over and built them with those models. And on our last session, we'll talk organizational model. I actually have a 6-level team in that we sell about 150 homes a year, and I don't sell any of them. The team does that for me. And then my partner today is my good buddy. If you ever go to a KW event, it's hard to find us too far apart, Joseph Klosik.
Thanks, Kent. Yeah, this is a surreal moment. You know, if you told me a couple of years ago that I'd be here with Kent, you'd have two Carolina boys sitting here talking to Malaysia, you know, teaching them something, I would have said you're crazy. This is an honor. I love teaching. I love the opportunity that Keller Williams has given me to teach. It's created great friendships and meeting Kent. And yeah, we get to do this. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, as Kent said, my name is Joseph Klosik. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I'm an operating principal as well in one market center, an investor in multiple market centers here in the area. My wife and I do have a small team. It's a husband-wife team with an admin. We do about 10 to 12 million somewhat consistently a year. My main focus now has been on building our market center through our agents. So, you know, I come to this as the same perspective that Kent does, and I've tried this all the wrong ways and failed miserably. And now we've really bought into, or we have been kind of embracing the models, not only for our agents, but how that works in the market center, because they're really the same thing, Kent. I mean, they're, you know, it's whether or not you're an OP building an office or a mega agent building a team, you're building the same thing, right? The only difference between the two, quite honestly, are the margins, right? And so for me, it's been a real blessing because our market center has seen some great success, and we're excited about it. I'm excited to teach it today. You know, we were talking before, Jonathan mentioned we had a chance to have some conversations, and what I like about this topic is that it is so foundational, and this is what we were talking about. This is kind of sets your standard or your benchmarks for your business. And what's challenging about the topic is it's not everyone's favorite topic. It's math, right? We're doing, you know, we do a lot of numbers. Now that's not to scare everybody. Don't jump off the call. And what Kent and I have been able to do over the years, though, is go out and meet with so many different agents and talk to them about it and find out the easiest way to talk about this so everyone can grasp it. So anyway, I'm excited to be here. This will be fun.
Cool. So let's recap. So if you were not here last week, Holly Prescott set the stage for us, and she did a third of the book last week of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and she did all the mindset pieces. Now, I know for a fact that Christine has that taped. So if you missed last week, get with Christine, have her send that over to you and get that mindset piece. Because last week, Holly told us all about the myth understandings, all those things that can get in our head and mess us up. Then she taught us the way a millionaire real estate agent thinks. What is their mindset going in? She talked about the 3 L's: leads, listings, leverage. And that's the stuff that leads into what we're going to do. And she gave us the 8 goal categories. And then at the very end last week, Holly told you that her favorite page in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book was page 122. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. If you've got your book with you, if you'll get your MREA book out and turn to page 120, because here's what 120 and 121 says that leads into that 122. At the very top of page 120, it says, as we've discussed, models are very important tools to help us achieve our goals. To put it plainly, models matter, and the right models matter most. If you don't know where you're going, I guess any model will do. But if you're trying to become your very best and achieve the most you possibly can, you'll need big models to match your big goals. And then the last sentence in that same paragraph says this. It says, one of our discoveries in working with and interviewing millionaire real estate agents is that they all seem to follow 4 key models: an economic model, a lead generation model, a budget model, and an organizational model. By the way, that's the next 4 weeks. Joe's going to tell us about it in just a second. And then on page 121, that first full paragraph, it says, simply think of the 4 models as adding up to a formula that says, to achieve the amount of net income or profit you desire, you will need to generate X number of leads, spend X amount of money in specific areas to support those efforts, and hire X number of people to service it all. So that's what it says about the model. So Joseph, tell us about the 4 models that we're going to do over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to point out, it's amazing too. I mean, I just grabbed my highlighter actually and was highlighting some of the things you just read. And I mean, you can see this book is not in great shape. I've read it a couple of times. It's so fun to do this and kind of highlight certain sentences that you didn't really see before. And those 2 that you read were so profound. So yeah, I mean, basically going back to the page that you mentioned that was Holly's favorite page, and this is right out of the book, right? It's page 122. And I'm going to do a brief overview of this, of the 4 models, and then we're going to dive into the economic model today. So again, the 4 fundamental models that we have: the economic model, the lead generation model, the budget model, and the organizational model. Kent taught me that this is really kind of the business wheel of life, right? This is how all the parts of your business go together. And what I like about how it's formatted is there's no one model on top per se, right? They're all equally important in growing your business. And there is an order in which you have to build your business on this. And that's why we start with the economic model. And what you'll see, and you notice in each one of these models has what we call the key focus areas, right? So for the economic model, we've got know the numbers you're going to hit. We're going to dive into these today. Focus on your appointments, focus on your conversions. And then over the next 3 weeks, you're going to be going through the 3 following models, which are just as important and are based on this model that we have and that we're going to talk about today. All right, so Kent.
Yeah, so Joseph, so let's kick off that economic model. In your book on page 129, and page 129 talks about every single person on this call. It's going to describe you no matter where you are in your business. So page 129, second paragraph says this: now, whether you realize it or not, you have an economic model. Every business does, every real estate agent does. The issue is not about having an economic model. Rather, the issue is whether you understand the one you have and whether it can get you the net income you want. A sound economic model should do 3 basic things for you. Number 1, show you where your money comes from. This is your gross revenue. Number 2, show you where your money goes. This is your expenses. And 3, show you how much is left for you. That's your net income or your profit. This is basic economics and sounds very simple, but in actuality, most people and most realtors follow very unsound economic models. 1, they're not sure where their money will come from. 2, they're not sure which costs are critical and which ones are not. And 3, they can't be sure how much will be left at the end of the year. So guys, what we're doing today is we're actually having a business conversation. And the next 4 weeks, this is all about you running a business. So much so that I don't know if you can see it or not, but I wore my Think Like a CEO shirt today because that's what we're going to do. Every person on this call today, you are a business owner, and you're going to determine how that business runs. So yeah, Joseph, if you go to the next slide.
Yeah.
In
Well,
the
when I'm going over there.
Oh, go ahead.
Quick question. I'm gonna throw you a curveball. So,
Okay.
we have this discussion every time we talk about the economic model, right? And it's I love it. It says, but in actuality, most people follow very unsound economic models. Why do you think that is? Like, and as many people as we've had the pleasure of being able to teach and talk to about this, why do you think we fall into that trap?
I think the number one reason for realtors is this. For us, the vast majority of realtors never owned a business before they got into real estate. They didn't know that they were owning a business when they got into real estate, and they don't have an MBA. They don't have any training in business. They just go into it completely unprepared for what it looks like.
Yeah, that's a good point. We have an agent that just joined us in the last few months, a Mega, and she put it really well. She said, I looked up one day, and she's a phenomenal business, and she had early success. She said, I looked up one day and realized I had a very lucrative hobby, but it wasn't a business. And I think you hit the nail on the head. We don't realize it's a business. We go into it, we start making decent money or getting the freedom we want. Next thing you know, we're not running it like we should. So that's a good point. Thank you. I wanted to throw that out. I just thought it was a good point.
No, I think it's, I think that you're hitting the nail on the head. And so, Joseph, you talked about she has a very, would you say a very expensive hobby? Is that what you called it?
Well, she called it a lucrative hobby, but she had great success in the beginning. Right? Yes, because she was making money. I mean, you can make money as an individual agent, but it's not sustainable long term.
Okay, so that's lucrative. That's a great lead in to this next page where it talks about performance and investment and your outcomes. So performance is just how well you apply your skills, your behavior, your abilities to produce revenue. And then you couple that with investment, and you invest 2 things. You invest money and you invest time. And where those 2 intersect, that's where the outcome comes. And that outcome is going to be your net income or your profit. Now, I like to look at this a little bit different way, Joseph, and I'm going to talk about that lucrative hobby you just talked about. We have a saying in the States that says, if you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life. That's not a job. If you love what you do, if you get up excited to go, you'll never work a day in your life. So I want you to think about these circles like this. On the left side, what are the things that you like to do? For example, for me, the things I like to do, I like to play tennis. I like to do anything there is outdoors. Obviously, I'm here this morning. I like to talk. And I really enjoy building relationships. I'm a very social person. So that's a kind of a list of some things that I like to do. Now, in that second circle up top, I'm going to put the things I'm good at. Well, you know what? I'm good at real estate sales. I think I'm pretty good at running businesses. And I got invited here today. I think I'm pretty good at doing speaking engagements, where what I like to do and what I'm good at intersect. And that's going to be speaking and building relationships. That's where I enjoy it. And that's where my net income and my profit is going to come from, is the intersection of those 2. And Joseph, you know me pretty well. You know, I never work a day. I get up excited every day. I get up early, ready to tackle it because I'm doing things that I love all the time. And I think that's the key to success right there. That's what success is about.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that. So, all right. So we ready to dive in to the elements of it?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is the part now. Well, we'll wait. We'll see. Typically what happens is whenever I'm teaching a class, when you stop sharing the screen, we go back. That means this is an important message, right? Because we're now back here in front of you. This is where we get started on breaking down the numbers and truly running this like a business. And I want to encourage everyone on here to put in the chat box if you have any questions, if you're stumped, anything like that. I promise you're not the only one. Like by far, if anything, you're probably actually in a majority. But everyone's, in bold in the coaching program, the bold that we have in the States, they talk about everyone wants to look good or be right. So I think that's what it is. So we're afraid of not looking good or being wrong. That's why you don't talk. don't worry about that, right? Please ask the questions, because if you have it, I promise someone else does. So we're going to start into kind of the elements of the economic model. Now, what happens in this is we start to talk a different language here, Kent. So if you and I were to sit down and say, okay, what does it look like to build my economic model in my business? We focus on a couple different things. We focus on the gross commission income, which we call GCI. That's the total amount that is taken from the sale, right? This is before any of your office splits or anything's taken out. This is the amount that is on what we have is called the settlement statement. Well, it's called I don't even know. I call it the settlement statement, right? It's what everyone signs. It says here's how much the commission is, and then we want to get to the net income in the profit that we have. And so this is what we call, and you've probably heard it 1,000 times if you've been on any KW stuff, is what we call the 30-30-40, right? What it means is you're going to have 30% of your income, your gross income is going to go to operating expenses. 30% are going to be what we call cost of sales. And then that means you'll net an income of 40%. Now, a couple things.
Joseph, I think they probably know this. Obviously, we're teaching the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, but some of the things that Joseph might tell you are going to be from the research for the Millionaire Real Estate Agent revised or number 2, whatever they're going to call it, that'll come out eventually. If you go through, the reason we're not pointing out in the MREA where it says 30-30-40, it actually doesn't say it that way. Joseph and I did the numbers, and we know that it's 30. Every example in the book is 30-30-40. They just didn't come out and say it big. And I think that's one thing that'll change in the new book. I think they will blast 30-30-40. Jonathan will tell you when we have all our business meetings about our agents, man, they are talking, it's 30-30-40. So I can't point you in the book where it is. Trust me, the numbers in the book all come out to this.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's quite frankly, you're saying that to me, it's an aha of kind of the brilliance of how this book was written, is because you put it, when we were going over this yesterday, you said something. I should have written it down. You very seldom say things so smart, so I should have written it down so I should remember it. But you made a point of that it's not in the book, but yet the book is designed to help you discover it or to point you that way. I can't remember how you worded it, but what you just said is it's going to be a wash in their best practices, right? I mean, it's going to come out. So I want to break these down a little bit, and I'm going to go out of order, which, as an instructor is you shouldn't do that. I should probably just change the materials. I want to start with this cost of sales and what cost of sales is, because we do break down the two different ones. Why do we break? Why is it so important, Kent, to break down the difference between operating expenses and cost of sales?
Well, because they're subtracted from you two completely different ways. But also, if you're running a business, you need to separate those so that you can see where you are out of model and change that, because they are so different. And all millionaire real estate agents that I know, if they get out of model, they get out of model on cost of sales, not on operating expenses. It's very interesting phenomenon that's where it comes from.
Right, exactly. So going back into this, and actually I did write it down. What you said is it leads you to discover. I did write it down. That's what the MREA does, is it leads you to discover what these margins are going to be. So let's talk about cost of sale. So cost of sale, as I describe it, is a cost that you only have when there is actually a sale, right? If there is no closing, this cost does not come about. So the things that we put into this are going to be your obvious ones, which your first one's going to be whatever your split is with your brokerage. If you're with KW, this is what I pay when I have a closing. This is basically what I pay them. Cost of sales, I've always said, is from your perspective as the individual, right? If I'm a business, if I'm the market center, my cost of sale is what you get paid, right? So, but I'm looking at from an agent, this is what I pay to the market center. Then after that, you'd have your royalty. What do you pay to KW International, KW Malaysia? You'd have that as part of, that's also what we call cost of sale. And then after that, it can be a series of different things. If you're building a team, it's going to be what your cost is to have an agent on your team. I know that it's my understanding that in Malaysia, you don't have a whole lot of buyer agents. However, if you have multiple agents on your team, whatever split you have with them, you're going to pay that. And then some additional things, and Kent, you can chime in, that we have is, we have some coaching programs that are paid when there's a sale. The coach is incentivized based on the agents having sales. So whatever comes out of that would also be a cost of sale. And then the one that's Kent and my favorite is referral fees, right? So when you guys send all of your North and South Carolina referral or any of your United States referrals, we'll put you in the right direction. But your North and South Carolina referrals, when we pay you a referral fee, that's a cost of sale as well. And that's one I'll pay all day long, by the way. That's my favorite one.
Yeah.
What else?
Us,
Any other ones?
well, so does, when you go to that gross closed income, that GCI, that's the amount of the check. If you're in Malaysia and you sell something for 100,000 and you got 3% on it, I don't know what your numbers are. That $3,000 check, that is your gross commission income. And then for us, in the United States, that check is actually made to Keller Williams, and we hand that into Keller Williams. Your cost of sale is anything that Keller Williams takes out of it before they hand you the check back. And like you said, it's really just two things. It's what we split with Keller Williams via a cap or a royalty, and it's anything that we pay another licensed agent, whether it's an agent on our team or a productivity coach or a referral fee. That's cost of sales. You only pay that when you actually sell something.
Right, exactly. So you have your cost of sale you take out, and again, you want to keep that model in, or you want to keep it in the model of under that 30%. And again, it's a guideline, not a requirement, right? And we won't get too much in the details of each one because that's going to be covered in the budget model in 2 sessions from now. And then we have the operating expenses. This is the other 30%. And the operating expenses are basically anything that you pay to keep your business running, right? From opening the doors to your office, to showing property, to going through closing, to your communication, everything that you have to run your business is put into operating expenses. And I will say, just as a plug, to make sure you do come back for the budget model, that is arguably probably it is the one thing that kept my wife and I in the business when we first started our business. Is if we hadn't had that, the operating expenses tracked in the budget model, we probably wouldn't have lasted after our first year, to be honest with you. So it's super important that you're tracking your operating expenses separate from your personal expenses, right? It's, make sure you have it. You have a separate chart of accounts. You even have a separate bank account set up for your operating expenses. And then once you,
so Joseph, can I tell you my expenses? Yeah. So I mean, just so you know, there we go. I'm back. So for me, I have advertising, which is what I do to promote properties. I have marketing, which is what I'll do for a specific property. Advertising can be build my brand or properties. I have dues that I pay to the state or my MLS or my board. I have my admin staff. I have the salaries that I pay. I have rent. I have a car that I have to put gas in. So all these things for us are legitimate business expenses that we want to write off to make sure that we're getting the correct accounting for.
Right. And to make sure we're running a lucrative business, a profitable business. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't know, you don't know. And next thing you know, you don't have any money left over. So these are the elements, Kent, that we broke it down. Now let's take that over to how the actual money flows through the business. Right. And this we're going to,
just real quick, can I go back to that 40% 1 second? Hey guys, throw in the chat real quick. Is a 40% net profit, is that good for a business in Malaysia? Throw that in the chat if you will. I want to know what Malaysia looks like. While you're doing that, while you're looking to see if that's a good, all right, nobody's chatting with me. Maybe we're the only two on here, Joseph. You never know. Just so you know, in the United States, a 40% net profit is phenomenal. Grocery stores in the United States, net profit 2 to 3%, just for an example. So a 40% net profit is huge. Oh, thank you, John. Jonathan says their expenses are not as high as ours. I might move, Jonathan, I might move my business. If you're looking for an agent, let me know.
Yeah.
Come on in tomorrow, man. Come on in.
Perfect. I'm sure we can just jump on a flight tonight and be over there.
Every team leader in Malaysia will hit me up in the next 5 minutes. Watch. All right, Joseph, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, and that's a good point. And I think it's super important that again, this goes back to the models are guidelines, but not necessarily requirements. And, also if you're an individual agent, you may look at a net income of 40% and think that's not high enough. Well, I don't spend that kind of money. And it can be adjusted. I mean, for a long time, Lynn and I ran about a 60% profit margin on our business. Now, there was a sacrifice from that in that we weren't leveraged, right? So we made a lot of money, yet the business was 100% reliable on our involvement on it on a daily basis. So again, it's a guideline for that. So let's jump into this.
So it was costing. So it wasn't costing you as much money, but it was costing you more time than you wanted to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which that's a great lead in for future models that we do.
Yeah, 100%. So this is what it looks like, and the reason I bring this up, and quite frankly, now that we've had the discussion this morning, This isn't as relevant because I know that you guys, you don't have buyer agency. You know, what we do is we typically want a balanced business of 50% from the listing side, 50% from the buyer side. That's how we run it in the United States. Now, for you, you don't have to split it now. If you're going to be running everything through one side, you would just look at, you have your total GCI at the top. Obviously, the majority, if not all of that's going to come from your listing sales, right? Then you back out your listing cost of sale, and then you have your total cost of sales and operating expenses there. So I like that. He said, how do we move to the US? We'll move to Charleston, not Charlotte, and we'll help you find a place, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, I mean, this is basically the cash flow of what it looks like. And then what we want to do, and Lynn, Lynn, you're definitely not Lynn. Kent, what I might get you to do is on that page, the next slide.
Yes.
I was wondering if I was trying to think if I have an economic model that would change so we don't split it on the buyer side here in a bit and confuse them.
No, just do the one side. It's okay. It's all right. Go ahead.
Okay, we'll do
We'll
that.
just run through one
So
side.
yeah, so then what we do is we take kind of we want to move to what are the drivers of the economic model. So we talked in the beginning, each one of the models has your key focus areas. So on the economic side, so we're going to focus on appointments, right? Or focus on the numbers you must hit, which are going to be based on your goals, focus on your appointments, and then focus on conversion rates, right? So what this does is you want to look at what your leads turn to appointments, right? We don't go through that conversion on this. We don't go through that conversion rate on this one just because the majority of leads or leads come from a vast array of places. So we can't really focus on that conversion here because it'll be different if you have internet leads versus your sphere of influence. And then we focus on our appointments to our clients taken, and then our clients taken to solds, right? So for an example, what we found by studying here is when you go on an appointment, and what this says, and again, we'll just focus on the left-hand side, when you go on a listing appointment, there's a 75% conversion rate that people have when they go on an appointment to an actual seller listing that they take. Now,
okay, Justin,
that
I got a
completely...
question. I got a question. Hold on now. These are millionaire real estate agents they study. These are probably the top listers out there. So why would their conversion rate only be 75%?
Well, because they're doing a high volume of them, right?
Oh, wow. So they're going on tough ones.
They're going on tough ones, you know,
they're
and it's a good point.
For listings.
Competing, right? And in our market, I mean, if you don't think you're competing right now, you're not paying attention. I mean, that's for us, you know. And here's what happens though, is a lot of people ask this question, and you've always given this example, say, well, my conversion rate last year was, you know, 100%. Well, you know, that was your best friend, right? Your parents referred you to someone.
Yeah.
Your cousin did all that, and that's great. And there's nothing.
You were 3 for 3.
Exactly. But you want to make sure you're very conservative on setting these conversion rates, because here's the deal, Kent. Let's say your conversion rate ultimately ends up being better than 75%. Let's say it ends up being 80, 85%. The good news is you're now able to work less for the same money or work the same for more money. You get to make the decision, right, which is the beauty of the business. In addition to that, and this next one is where it really pops up, when you take a seller listing in the States, the average is 75% that listing taken will go to sold. Now, I was just we were visiting you guys last week. We were talking about the real estate market. We went and looked at some homes that were on the market and they weren't for sale because they're already under contract. You know, that's not happening in our market right now, in very micro markets throughout the country. However, you said this yesterday, I thought it was great, is you're not planning for the current market, you're planning for the future market. And we don't know what that looks like. Yeah. Right. We don't know what that future market
right
looks
now,
like. So
we're selling pretty close to 100% of our listings taken. Everybody is. That is a function of the market in the United States right now. I mean, that's just where we are. We're going to sell all of them. But like you're saying, historically, 75% is actually a pretty good average. And we had the big downturn in 2009 and 10. I only sold 49% of the listings I took because it was a different market. And so we're always preparing for the market we're going into.
Right, exactly. And again, same thing applies. You get to make the choice. You can say to yourself, hey, you know what? I am selling 100%, so I'm going to take fewer listings to make the same money. I would caution against that. I would say if
So
you built
Joseph,
in,
Joseph, we got a question here on listings. This is good, and Jonathan, maybe you can answer this because I'm not sure what he means. How do you categorize open listings? It says most listings are open listings. What's an open listing?
Right. I think majority of our listings here are non-exclusive to one agent.
Okay.
It's not in the United States where every agents get that opportunity to just sell that particular listing. So it's a very much open listing culture in our market. And of course, we are definitely in a very strong buyer's market right now. Very tough market right now. We have too much inventory in the market. So I would argue, I think the question is to kind of ask what would that conversion rate be if it's all open listings right now.
So that's it's a great question. So guys, here's what I want to encourage you to do is I want you to start today tracking how many open listings you take versus how many you close. We don't have open listings here. I can't tell you what the conversion rate is. I know this. If you'll start tracking now, a year from now, you'll know what your conversion rate is. And if your conversion rate's 50%, that's the place to start. And then you can start thinking about, okay, what are the things that I can do to increase my success rate above 50%? But it's really it's a different market. So it's going to be on you. And that's, if you take anything from today, it's follow the models and track everything so that you are running a business. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Joseph, but I wanted to catch that question so we knew where to go with the rest of this.
No, I think it's great. And I think, and Luke, I appreciate you asking, because it really, what it does is it points out to adjust accordingly, right? So, and I'm sure Jonathan probably has the stats, right? For every, if there's a seller listing or an open listing, there's an X chance that it's gonna, if you work it a certain way or market it a certain way, there's a percentage closing for you. So a closing rate for you. So one of the things that may be a good follow-up to this is saying, hey, here's how we could calculate those conversion rates, because when Kent said that, he's absolutely right. In a year, you'll know, right? Well, I want to know now. And I'm sure that there are numbers that you'll have. And the point of that is use the numbers that Jonathan has for the market centers or even for the region of the country, and then earn the right to get your own numbers by doing it for a year. But until you've done it for a year with a decent amount of volume, use these numbers, because the goal, Kent we talk about all this a lot, is the goal of an economic model is not to have the prettiest economic model that makes you look the smartest. It's to have the one that's going to be the most accurate in numbers for you to hit your goals, right? You don't need to have 100% to show everyone that says, hey, look, I can do 100%. No, be realistic of what it's going to look like. So that way, when you set your goal or when you put your action in place, you actually hit the goals. Okay.
Yeah, Joseph, and so then you have the sad thing about our business is we give awards for things like GCI, gross commission income. We give awards for most homes sold, things like that. In reality, the reward that I want is the net income. I want the profit in my pocket. We don't give awards for that because we don't know who has that, but I know what mine is. I know what I want mine to be, and that's my focus. It's not walking across the stage. It's about what the money I'm taking home to live the life by design that I want for me and my family.
Right. Well, and so, so Jonathan, thank you for putting that in there. The conversion rate is hovering around 25% conversion. So at first you look at that and be like, well, man, that's a huge difference. Well, again, your appointment process is way different, right? You're not sitting down individually with sellers to get an exclusive listing. So your appointment process, your conversion rate may not even be a consideration in there. It may be something that you have to say, hey, here's what I need to do to get a client for that property. And when I do that, what's my conversion rate for that client to get that property? And then what's that conversion rate for that property to close? So again, you adjust those. And then what you ultimately come down to, which is the point of this, which is why I love it that we do it this way, is this gross commission income, right? And so Kent, we talk about this a lot. We used to do the business back in our day. We used to do the business model, the economic model, where it said we take the average price of the home that sold and then the average percentage of the commission per that. And we've now added 2 steps of math that were unnecessary. And what we've done, and for the example, we've calculated it, is we know that from doing that, we come up for us, it's right around $7,000, right? So per transaction, what is your gross commission income? So we're going to walk you through an economic model for you to see it. Don't try to do it, just to see what it looks like. And then you'll be able to plug your numbers in there. And the big thing is on that gross commission income is, what is the round number, the dollar figure, not a percentage, not an average percentage, not an average price point. What's the average dollar figure for your gross commission income per transaction? Do you want to add anything to that, or anything that?
No, I think, yeah, go ahead to the
All right.
model.
Okay. So here it is. So here's the model, and here's what the economic model looked like. And we're only going to do the left-hand side because there's no point in walking through it. Is just so you can see what that looks like. So we know if we had a goal to net $1 million, that's our net income we're putting in our pocket. Well, everything in the economic model from here forward is based on GCI. All your percentages on everything, your budget model, everything is all based on your GCI. So the first thing we need to do is get from our net model, or excuse me, our net income, that 40%, to our total GCI. So if I want to get $1 million, how do I determine what my total GCI is?
I'm going to divide by 40%.
Correct. Right. And why you did that is it basically says, okay, if I'm going to net 40% and it's going to be $1 million, that means my GCI is going to be 2.5 million. All right. So now I've got the number from which the rest of this model is based, or on which the rest of this model is based. So I'm going to calculate my operating expenses, which are going to be 30% of that GCI, which is 750,000. And then I'm going to calculate my cost of sale, which is 750,000. So if I add the top three numbers up, I get my total GCI to run my business is 2.5 million. So we've got that number. Now we've got to say, how many units do we have to sell? Because at the end of the day, Kent, it's all based on your activity. What the segue of your business plan from today until next week is, now that I've got my activities that I need to do. John Prescott, John's next week, right?
Yes, John Prescott's lead gen next week.
Yeah, and he's a lead gen master, and he's going to walk you through now, what activities do I do to hit these numbers? So in order to find out my GCI, I've got to find out my average commission amount. So for the example, we have on there that it's $7,150. That's the average that we have based on the studies that we've done in the United States. That will be adjusted accordingly to your market. So in this example, that means if I've got $7,000 per commission and I need 2.5 million, then I'm going to have to sell 350 homes. Okay. So again, a lot of stuff. If you've got any questions, let us know. Now, in order to that, what we do typically is we divide sell side from listing side. But in this one, we're going to basically do everything on the listing side. So where it says the example here is we're going to divide by 50% or multiply by 50%. Sorry, my slides are a little delayed. What I would take is that total units sold by 50%, and I'd get the total seller listings needed. Now for you, you would
That's 100% Malaysia, right?
100%, right? It's 100%. Yeah. So this would be 100%, which would change the numbers, right? But that's fine. But the thing is now you've got this number, which your total seller listings that you need to sell. Okay, so that's the number that you get to. What are the total number of seller listings I need to sell? So for this, it's 175. Well, then I'm going to enter my conversion rate that we talked about on the page before, which is, well, it was 75, but it's 70 on here. So that means in order to sell 175 of them at a 70% conversion rate, I need to take 250 total seller listings. And then I know my conversion rate on the number of appointments I go on to the listings taken is 75%. It will appear, got a little technical delay. There we go. Yeah. I take that 250, divide it by 0.75, and then I know I need to go on a total, or my business, I say I a lot, we should change that. My business needs to go on 333 appointments to take the 250 listings to close 150 of them, or 175 of them, which in this case would make us half of the 2.5 million in GCI.
So Joseph, something that we used to do when we taught this class, I'm going to do now. And we quit doing it. The reason we quit doing it is in the US, we wanted people to think big. Guys, if these numbers are freaking you out because you're a different market than we are, divide by 10. Have a net income of 100,000 and a GCI of 250,000. And then it only take 18 total seller listings. So if this is freaking you out a little bit just because the economies are different, because I'm getting some stuff in the chat that tells me maybe they are a little bit different, just divide by 10 and do it that way. Because you're going to plug in, the key is for you to plug in your own numbers to do this, not go by what we're saying. You want to put in your conversion rates, your average price,
right,
and your net income goal.
Right. Well, 100%. And here's the thing, and I appreciate you said that. I'm going to call an audible really quickly here. You know, and Holly talked about this last week, and we talked about it in mindset. But the thing is, the reason we do it this way is part of how a millionaire real estate agent thinks, is thinking big goals, big models. So Kent is absolutely right. Divide by 10, and you can get, you know, if that helps with you connecting with the numbers. The reason we look at it and we base, and this is hard for me, this took me years to grasp, because I'd look at these numbers and I'd be like, that's nice. I just want to sell, you know, I want to make 100,000. I don't need to make the million. So one of the things we want to look at is, if you build a model to sell 100,000 over X amount of time, if you put the models and systems in place for it, you've got a good chance of hitting that goal. But there's also a chance that you may not, because you built it for this model. If you build a model for $1 million over 12 months, and you have these models and goals and activities in place, you'll blow through the 100,000 or whatever the different numbers are. But you know for a fact you'll hit your actual goal, and then you get to decide after that. So that's one of the reasons.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the think big, aim high part of it. And I appreciate Kent saying it, because the reality is sometimes those numbers can be daunting, and we tend to disconnect.
Yeah.
So
hey, Joseph, so I think we're probably going to get the hook here in a second. So I want to tell everybody, we're going to be respectful of your time, but Joseph and I will not leave. We're going to stay and answer questions as long as you have them, if you have them. But Joseph, let's wrap this up for the people that have a hard stop at when we were supposed to stop. Can you throw that last economic model back up there?
Yes, sir.
So guys, here's what I want you to think about when you're looking at this. I want you to think about, you are now running a business. And I did my homework, Joseph, and I found out that in Malaysia, they do not have Walmarts. But what they do have is they have Tesco or Giant. So I want you to think about the local Tesco or Giant store. If you have a Tesco, do they know how many people walk in their door every day? Well, yes, they do, because they're running a business. That percentage appointment conversion rate, that's how many people walk in your door. Does Tesco or Giant know how many people actually buy something of the number of people that walk in? Well, yes, they do. And that's your sold conversion rate. That's percentage of people that buy something. Does Tesco know how much the average customer spends every time? Yes, because they're running a business. That's your average commission amount. Do they know their profit? Yeah, Tesco and Giant know what their net income profit is. And you're running a business, you're going to know that. You're running a business, know those key numbers, and that will help you run a business. Final thought, Joseph?
Point. I mean, it's such a good point. Is at the end of the day, it's know your numbers, right? And you know, we base them on models, and you know, we have a saying in our market center when we talk about all this stuff is, if you want, right? Build a model for $1 million business if you want. Right? If you want to build a model for $100,000 different business, build it. The reason that we have these models is not to say everyone has to do it, it's to give them the ability to do it, to build an organization large enough before, because if Gary had come out and said, hey, the $100,000 real estate agent, I don't believe we would be where we are today, right? We'd have a lot of people that made lucrative, you know, made decent money, right? Yeah. But I don't think it would have taken the growth. So if you want, it's know your numbers and build in there. But no, I think, you know, you're going to want to go through this again, and I appreciate what Kent said. I'll stay on here as long as you guys need to answer questions, because this is overwhelming if you've not heard it before, and you got to get through it, right? You got to know those numbers.
So Jonathan, do you need to sign off for anything? Do you need to say anything? No. And then, like I say, we'll hang around if you want.
Yeah, I got a couple of follow-up questions if you guys don't mind.
Cool. Let's go.
Yeah, you guys started off earlier this evening or your morning talking about how when you guys started off, you didn't have like a real model to follow, and things didn't work out the way you thought it would work out until you changed that model. Could you guys, I see you guys chuckling and laughing right now. So could you guys share a little bit about how you guys transit from that mindset into this mindset here right now? Because I think that's a huge, a big thing for us who is just trying to adopt the models as we are launching our region this couple of years. So could you kind of share that story with us if you don't mind?
Well, mine's pretty easy. Failure will cause you to change what you're doing. And my wife was in real estate. I got into real estate. We were going to do a team together. And 3 months after I started, my wife left the team to become a team leader. And now all of a sudden I'm building this team, and I had the thing is, I had read the MREA book a couple times, but I didn't put it in practice. And I just kind of did things my way. And especially the big mistake for me, Jonathan, will be the last model that we do, which is organizational. I messed that completely up. And it took me 2 years. I went from 2007, 2009, losing everything, and I had to shut it down. I actually shut down my team and found a new home for every single person except one. And I started back over with that first hire. And I just said, if it's not in this book, I'm not going to do it. I've done pretty well with that. Have I been out of model at times? Yes. Jonathan, here's the funny thing. When I'm not in the model, it usually still works to a point. But if I'm not in model, I hit a ceiling in my business that I can't get out of unless I get back in model. So yeah, other ways will work, but someday you're going to find out, oh, that's why Gary said to do it this way, because it's scalable to make $10,000 or 50 or 100 or a million. And so that's why we just say, if you just follow it, you won't have to go through the failures that we did.
Yeah. And Jonathan, my story is very similar. I was a team leader for 6 years. And I was teaching the models. I knew the models. I mean, the book, I knew everything. And my wife was in sales. I joined her. She was an awesome agent. She was a top agent in the market center. And about 6 months into that first year together, Mr. Hero came in to tell her how to do everything. We were going to make, I've told the story 1,000 times. We were on track to make $13,000 our first year as a business together, which is not our goal. Right. And it was, and I will say, in all seriousness, the only reason we knew that is because I'd had a sit down with Kent. I did a lot of interviews of different husband-wife teams. And he put it more eloquently, but basically it was like, I'll only let you do this if you do two things. One is you track your numbers. I mean, you have your budget set up exactly like the model, and then you track your leads and your conversions. And he held me accountable to it. And had I not done that, one of us would have had to go get a real job. And that wasn't going to be Lynn, because she was running a good business. So, and we had to step back and punt. Now, my challenge is I wasn't embracing what John's going to talk about next week, which is so important, is the focus of your lead generation. My challenge is I knew how to do all the lead generation really well because I'd taught all the ways to do it. So I figured I'll just go do it all. And next thing you know, I was doing 10 different lead generations and none of them well. And it literally, our small tweak was taking it and focusing on 3. And we just Katie barred the door and we focused on those 3. And that's how we pulled out that first year together and survived. We didn't miss any meals. We didn't kill each other. We saved our business and it was. And oh, by the way, I've messed up probably another 25, 30 times since then.
John will say that next week, that top agents have 3 to 5 lead generation sources. That's it. You don't have to do a million different things. But you guys next week with John Prescott. And then the next week, I get it. The next week is going to be that budget model 2 weeks from now. And man, I know there's going to be people that say, I don't want to listen to that. You need to. And Jackie Ellis is going to do that one. And she is amazing at simplifying it for you, because that is part of your business plan. So I really hope that you guys show up for both of those.
Right. Can I follow up with you, Joseph? What are some of the numbers or some of the things that you track that is non-negotiable, that you have to track on a frequent basis, like a daily or weekly basis? What are the key numbers or key metrics that you think is important for us to track in order for us to be aligned in this model?
Well, the frequency and daily thing, honestly, it would be the lead generation. And again, that's going to be based on, and John will go into this, and he does a good job of keeping it simple, because here's the thing about tracking, and as OPs, we get, I've got a spreadsheet that's got literally 12 tabs of different things to track for my market center, right? I had to ease into that. If I started with that, when you track everything, Donna Harmon said this, if you track everything, nothing's important, right? So you want to find out what the most important things are. So for me personally, if I'm working with an agent, they need to be tracking how many leads they currently have, right? How many they need to add to hit their goal, and then what that activity goal looks like. So if I need to add X amount and I know it takes so many contacts to add them, whatever that goal is. So I would say contacts to lead generated, those are your daily. And then you start to go, more on a bi-weekly, bi-monthly thing of what your conversion rates are to closing. For your economic model, that's, the budget model. I mean, we look at our books twice, I've gotten to about twice a month where it's a soft close, so to speak, with my personal business and our market center. It's the same thing as where am I within model, so I can start playing red light, green light, which Jackie talked about.
Right.
If I was going to track one thing, it would be contacts. If you said what's the one thing I was going to track, it would be, I track more than that, but it would be contacts. Because I know if I make enough contacts, if I ask enough people, are you thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate? Somebody eventually is going to say yes. So
right. We are going through a very challenging market here right now. It's quite kind of tough, and then there's this tendency of us wanting to adjust the economic model because of the challenging market that we're in. How would you advise us to do this? Do we adjust the economic model because the market is not great, or do we keep that model there and figure out how to make it happen? What would your advice be?
So Kent, you want to go first on it? I've got some thoughts.
Well, I'm just going to say, I know this is the MREA class, but if you guys have this book, I'm going to tell you. And Jonathan, as I think you've got team leaders on here, you've got other leadership people. Jake Papazan, Gary's co-author, has told me a couple times that for a new agent getting in the business, this is probably the better book to read first, is the shift book. Right now, you're in a shifting market. Guess what, Jonathan? We are too, because the market's always shifting. And so this would be a great book. Yeah. Y'all have this book, Jonathan?
Yep. There you go.
I'm saying that would be it. It sounds like you're in if we could just get a bunch of those houses y'all can't sell over here, we can sell them because we got plenty of buyers that can find.
Yeah, you can send some of those over here. We need them. I think the best thing to take from Kent's point is it is a mindset shift more than it is a conversion or than it is a number shift, because what we tend to do in this market. So what's happened in our market is there are plenty of listings. There are just way too many buyers. So I mean because we're taking more listings now than we've ever taken before, but there's so many buyers who are selling quickly, so it's painful. The challenge is we say, okay, well, how do we change this? And we get comfortable saying, well, maybe the activities go down because it is what it is. Like that's what we hear a lot, is it is what it is. And what you have to do is you have to increase what it ultimately always comes down to, Jonathan, is the thing you need to adjust in your economic model and your lead generation model is exactly what Kent just said, which is your activities, right? In any shift, it's going to be changing your activities, not necessarily the economics of it. So in ours, the activities are, it's going to take more contacts to get buyer leads right now because they're competing, and it's going to take faster contacting to get seller leads because you got to be the first in the door.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much. I think that kind of answered quite a lot of questions that I think is kind of relevant to our market. I'm going to ask you guys to pause for a couple of minutes. I'm going to do a couple of announcements. Then I'll come back to you guys for some last thoughts, okay? Christine, can I have the announcements, please? Right. So just to bring this up again and not to sound like a broken record, but really, guys, we've got a great offer from MegaCamp this year for only $69 US. In the US, they pay more. So for some reason, we're getting it cheaper here. So Joseph and Ken, I'm sorry, but don't tell anyone in the US, but that's kind of what we have right now. So so do sign up for this and you'll get to hear more conversations and more agents who are going through a challenging market in a different way compared to ours as well right now. But you get to hear top producers kind of sharing their stories and giving you different insights about the business. So do sign up for MegaCamp. I believe there's close to 50 people sign up for MegaCamp this year. So let's just keep coming and spending our time since we're still in a lockdown right now in Malaysia, right? Next slide, please. Right, so this Thursday is our SOC, our first half SOC, and we are very proud to be able to have Ben Elvira, our labs manager, that will be launching a new component in our KW Command system platform. We'll be launching a consumer applet in our command, and we'll probably be the first one outside of US to have that opportunity to use some consumer functions in command due to all your hard work in putting your listings in one place. So that's going to come this Thursday night. And also we will have James Shaw from KWU as well, who is really the special guy in Shift, right? So it took us 1 year to block his time, right? And it's kind of hard to secure his time due to his busy schedule, but we are able to get him to be our keynote speaker for that session. So please do not miss it. It's 9 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. On Thursday. I know it's a little bit late, but because we're trying to accommodate both James and Ben to be in this conversation. And I think we are going to talk a lot about the recent acquisition of iProperty and Property Guru in Malaysia, how they're going to potentially showing up by going to the stock market and raising $500 million to come in and disrupt our market in Singapore and Malaysia. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well, and what's the impact potentially it will bring to us in our business. So do come for this particular SOC on Thursday from 9 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Okay, next slide, please. Right. If you are an agent or you know an agent that needs help with the White Flag Relief Fund, we do still have funds in our White Flag Relief Fund for the agents that's going through a very challenging time during this lockdown, this hard lockdown that we are in now. There's no sight of when are we allowed to go and do our business, but we have been locked down for the past few months. So this is to help relieve some of our agents who need help. Do sign up for this, or do get someone that you know that is needing help. Get them to sign up for this fund, and we will disperse the funds to them within the next 2 working days. Next slide, please. Now, thank you so much. We have been able to help about 217 families as of now, paid out about 43,000 ringgit already. So your effort and your contribution, your collaboration together with us in partnership is really giving us an opportunity to lift the culture of KW together, where we are really helping each other out during these dark times, right? So I think we have close to 50,000. Our goal is to raise 50,000 to fund 250 families. Right now, we are able to almost able to hit our goal. We have 5 days left in our challenge to raise the 50,000. So it's near about 2,000 ringgit. So if you have not, if you think that this is something that you want to partner with us ongoingly, or you want to kind of share this with your customers or clients, this is the right opportunity to be in partnership with your clients and your SOI, to touch base with them and offer this opportunity to support our White Flag Relief Fund opportunities. Next slide, please. Now, if you want to make a payment, do scan your QR code and you can make that payment via the e-payment gateway, or you can just elect to let your MCA know to deduct some commissions. I have quite a few agents doing that. So I want to thank those who are showing up and really taking advantage of this situation to help others. And if you do want to help in another way, share out these touch points as we have every week to kind of update your SOIs to help with us to kind of raise these funds here right now. So thank you so much for being part of it. Now, next week, we're going to continue on our journey on the budget model, actually, not lead generation model. We're going to do the budget model next week on the 3rd of August with Jackie Ellis. And then we will have 10th of August lead generation model with John Prescott. And we will finish off with Kent and Pamela again. Doing the organizational model. So this is the series that we are bringing to you for our MREA club members to really grasp and capture the MREA concept into our business, right? Cool. I think that's about it for the announcement. So Joseph and Ken, any last thoughts or any last advice that you want to leave to our audience here tonight?
Go ahead, Jojo.
Well, I was going to say, first of all, hats off to you guys. I mean, I just kind of had this aha when I'm looking at everything you're doing and the commitment that your agents have. I mean, you've got 112 people on here. It's 10 o'clock at night. That's dedication. Like, I appreciate that. I'm humbled to be here to talk to you guys. And, it's an eye opener that we take for granted that you guys are, we're kind of having some potential lockdowns again, but you guys are still going through that. So, the word of advice on the end of the day that I would have isn't totally related to the economic model. Run these numbers, do these numbers, but man, take some time and shut this down, be with your family, hang out, because you can have all these numbers all day long. If you don't take that time to recharge, I mean, we went through this and when in our lockdown, it's tough. It's a tough market out there. What will help you though, is having this plan in place. So when you go through these and you kind of come out with your business plan, you have that in front of you, you then have given yourself the permission to say, hey, I can take this night off. I can take this day off. I can, even if it's still having to be at home, hanging out with my family and some quiet time and recharging. Don't forget to do that, because it is not worth it to burn yourself out of this business.
Yeah. And Joseph, I'm going to tag on to what you're saying. When we came out of our lockdown, there were some people that were extremely successful because they used the time to prepare. They didn't wait till it opened back up and go, okay, so now I'm back. They were ready. And the people that hit it running when things did open back up had their best year ever in the last 12 months. So now's a great time to be thinking and sometimes I think Joseph calls it analysis paralysis. Sometimes we spend so much time planning, we don't do anything. Well, if you have some extra time now, get that stuff formulated and be ready to run. My two nuggets I always leave. Always say this: follow the model and don't go too fast. Earn the right to move up the levels. Just follow the model. When you start hitting the ceiling, then you can go to the next thing.
Right. Thank you so much, Ken and Joseph, for really taking time off. And I can see your passion and your enthusiasm really spreading this. It's like you guys are like really being there to support us, and we can feel it all the way. We are just 5 movies and 3 meals away from you guys. So on a plane flight. So we're not too far away. It's just 5 movies and 3 meals, and we'll be there. So guys on the call, if you're listening to this and you are really, really learning something, please express your gratitude to both Kent and Joseph on the chat box for really, really taking that time off and really giving us that understanding and that depth in the short period of time that they're given us. So I really want to you guys to really express your gratitude to them. So thank you so much, Ken and Joseph. You have made our life a little bit better tonight. And probably some of us will be thinking about the models and not able to sleep. And don't worry, it's not on you. Don't worry about it. So yeah, thank you so much, Ken. And really hoping to see you guys in person when we get to the States. Once we get out of this crisis.
We're looking forward to Mega Camp. Shameless plug. If you want to hear me talk some more, I'm doing the breakout session client events. So Mega Camp breakouts. If you want to see me again, that's mine. So check us out. Thank you, Jonathan. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Awesome, man. Take care. You'll have a good one. Take care now.
Right.
Just a small town girl living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train going anywhere. Just a city boy